Very good. Thank you very much for coming. Hopefully you'll enjoy the presentations, and we'll see you again soon. So I'm going to call on our first presenter, Andy Beaton, presenting the sky this month.
Okay, yeah, that looks more or less right. Hi, I'm Andy Beaton. I'm here to talk about the sky this month. I'm going to either do this really fast so we can get straight to the eclipses, or do it really slow because I'm bitter about missing the eclipse and don't want to see it anyway. What we've got up tonight is the big picture, some planetary highlights, globular clusters, comets and meteors, variable stars, my own particular favorite thing, and upcoming spaceflight highlights. Dennis Gray will probably notice that I've ripped off his template here. I'll pay him some kind of some fee for the use. So here's the big picture. This is the sky around 9 o'clock tonight, around 8 o'clock in a month. We're a bit short on planets this month. We've got Neptune down here, Uranus down here, Ceres up here, if you're going to count that as a planet. I do, it's round. Somewhere over here below the horizon is Saturn. If you want to have a look at Saturn, you've got some time left, but it's so low on the horizon that it's really lousy viewing. It's the equinox. Right now we've got days that are longer than nights. Up until September 22nd when it switches. Right now, night for us observers starts around 9:20. By the end of the upcoming month, it'll be 8:20, so we're getting more and more observing time. Twilight starts at 5:30ish, and it'll start at 6 o'clock by mid-October. So we've got a few interesting things coming up, nothing super spectacular. We've got a whole bunch of planets clustered around the moon on September 18th. If we were living on one of the countries on the other side of the world, we'd probably be seeing some occultations. I think you see them in South Africa and Australia and places like that. For us, it's going to make nice opportunities for photography. We're going to get picturesque views of planets near the moon. The new moon is September 20th. That's going to be our best observing time. On October 3rd, Neptune is going to be very close to the moon. That'll be a good photography opportunity. Venus and Mars have a conjunction on October 5th. Conjunctions actually kind of bore me, but they do make picturesque things for photography. And if you're showing your friends some planets that they haven't seen before, seeing them in groups is actually a nice thing. We have the moon, last quarter tonight, new moon on the 20th, full moon on the 5th. A popular feature for photographers nowadays is the lunar X, which is a feature on the moon where two craters combine, and at a certain time of the month, you get the light coming across at right the perfect angle. It makes a bright X over the darkness of the lunar terrain below. It's a nice thing to take a picture of. I've seen it, but never managed to get an image of it that I'd want to share. Planets coming up. Well, Neptune and Uranus are both evening objects. Uranus is in Pisces. Neptune is in Aquarius. Pluto's in Sagittarius. Because it's in Sagittarius, it's a really tough target. It really doesn't show up well against all the faint background stars. But if you're keen on hunting for it, it'd make another good photographic target. It's something where you could take an image one night and take another image a few months from now and see if you can get some motion in there. Juno's approaching opposition. Once again, if you're interested in finding those small minor planets, it's a nice one to chase, because being closer than the gas giants, it's something you can see move over a much shorter time period. Mercury is the other planet with worth observing. Maximum elongation was yesterday. We missed that. But if you're up early in the morning, tomorrow morning would probably be a good time to see it. But the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. It's sinking fast. Right now, it's appearing as a half Mercury. As it approaches the sun, it will become less and less visible, but will become more of a crescent. So getting out into the deep sky, my favorite objects are always looking for are globular clusters. I think they're the objects that look better in real life than they do in photographs. You can actually see the stars resolve down to the middle instead of a burned out zone. These are the best looking ones at this part of the year. M2 in Aquarius, M15 in Pegasus, and M30 in Capricornus. That one's pretty far south. If you're observing north of the city, you're going to have problems with it. But they're all worth seeing. M15, I think, is a particularly good one. M31. This is one of those objects that people just take for granted because it's one of the first things you see with a pair of binoculars when you start observing. I think it's just about the best thing in the fall sky. Not only can you look just to see if there's a galaxy up there in the sky, but it's got a lot of things worth looking for if you're a more experienced observer or if you've got more equipment than just a pair of binoculars. With an 8-inch telescope, you can see dust lanes and spiral arms. With a larger telescope, say 10 inches, you can see big star clusters, the stellar associations. There are 32 satellite galaxies. There's the two famous ones, M32 and M110. But there's another 30 of them of varying brightness. I think I've seen 4 of the others, but there's a lot that are within reach. And if you're somebody with a serious set of equipment, you can look for the globular clusters around Andromeda. I've seen one of them with an 8-inch telescope. What you really need is a good finder chart for that. If you've got a copy of the, what was it? Sky and Telescope came out with a big double volume Sky Atlas a few years back, and I can't remember the name of it now, but it had G1 in it. No, it wasn't Eurometria. It was a fancier one than that.
Morning Star Alliance?
No, I'll remember it. I'll once I remember it, I'll put it on the forum, and hopefully that'll help. But you can also find the location of the brighter globular clusters on any planetarium software, and I'm pretty sure there's a few places on the internet to find it as well. That's where I downloaded the map to find the one I did find. Comets and meteors. Well, it's a pretty bleak month. Really, there's nothing in the way of comets brighter than 12th magnitude. There's a bunch dimmer than that, but unless you're a specialist with fantastic equipment, they're really not worth looking for. A couple of lame meteor showers, the Piscids and the Draconids. Neither of them are producing a lot of meteors, but if you're out on those nights anyway, it's worth keeping an eye out for them. The Draconids is pretty close to a full moon. So if you have a dream of trying radio detection, setting up a shortwave radio, tuning it to a distant station and waiting for the signal to pop in as a meteor passes overhead, it might be a good opportunity for that. Other than that, there's not much going to be available in the way of meteors out there. My own particular field is variable stars. Our Aquarius is one that the American Association of Variable Star Observers has called for an observing campaign. They're going to be observing it on its next expected outburst with the Hubble Space Telescope and the Chandra Observatory, watching it in both visible and X-ray wavelengths. It's a symbiotic binary star, which means you've got a red giant orbited by a white dwarf. and you've got gas being pulled off the red giant, and bursting into brightness, or at least changing brightness on a fairly rapid basis. Right now, it's 9.5 magnitude and fading, and visible to the south and fairly high up in the evening at this time of the year. This is one of those things where amateurs can make a real contribution to science. It doesn't take any special equipment. All you need to do is download a map that shows you the brightness of the nearby stars. You look at the target star, you compare it to local stars, you go to the AAVSO's website, you report the data, and you've contributed real science to a project that NASA thinks the HST and Chandra Observatory are worth allocating to. Spaceflight. Yeah, things are pretty quiet. October 9th, we've got a reused Falcon 9 taking off with a communications satellite. I like watching the Falcon 9 takeoffs, especially the reused ones, because there's just that extra suspense to them. It's a really good season for watching the space station pass by. From now until the 21st, we've got a lot of morning passes. From September 24th to the next meeting, we've got a lot of evening passes. So if you haven't seen the space station yourself and you want to, it's a great time. If you've got friends who haven't seen it, it's worth dragging them out. Everybody loves to see the space station flying overhead with some astronauts inside. It's hard to tell with the color I've used there, but heavensabove.com gives you precise times and locations in the sky to look for the space station going by. And really, it's something, you can't mistake it for anything else. There's nothing else in the sky that looks like it. Thank you. And in 2 days, the end of the Cassini mission. This isn't going to be something we're going to be able to see in the sky, but it's a big deal. It's happening. Live coverage at nasa.gov. You can follow it at Cassini Saturn on Twitter, at NASA Cassini on Facebook, and they'll be gathering data until the final failure as the probe plunges down into the atmosphere of Saturn. Over the following few days, I'm sure they'll release that data, but we'll probably be able to watch at least some of it live on the internet. And hopefully they'll release some more of the pictures of the final orbits. This is the closest view of the rings that anybody has ever had. It's unworldly. And I'm going to be sorry to see it go because, you know, shots like that of the backside of Titan being lit up, you know, we're never going to see something like that until we get another spaceship out there. Okay, I have rushed through that as fast as possible so we can get on to the eclipses. Thanks very much.